Okay, thanks. Let's, at this point in time, I think what I'm gonna suggest, we go through this quickly, we'll give people a chance to speak one more time. We had just a little bit of this, not looking for board members to make an absolute commitment, but based on what you've heard and your own thoughts, I want to just kind of run through this, and this is all couched in terms of would you at least be willing to consider or look at this, and maybe this sets the table for talking about consult. So the first question is whether you'll support the construction of an addition to the existing fire station, bay expansion, sleeping rooms, etc. I mean, I'll jump into the pool on that. I will give that a qualified yes. I've supported that consistently in the past, but I'm going to qualify that with the concerns about firewalls, what's the bang for the buck, and whether we'd be better off building that new. But at least I'm willing to look at that as a possible solution. Anybody else want to jump into that so we can kind of get the temperature of it? Is that off? Maybe ask it this way, is that completely off the table for anybody?
It's not off the table, it's one of the reasons I got on the board here was to get the fire station fixed one way or another, do something about it, so I'm all for it.
So you're a yes at least to look at that as a possible alternative?
Yes.
Okay, anybody else?
Another yes.
Okay. Jim or Mike, you willing to look at that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in favor of exploring that. I don't know if it means the addition or if it means a separate sleeping quarters.
Okay, so at this point in time, highly qualified, I'll look at it. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay, Mike?
That's what it's gonna cost.
Okay, so yours is all about what it would cost. Okay.
Well,
All right.
It's the cost of the overall plan.
All right, okay.
It's gonna be my answer to everyone, so you can check them all off on the way down.
All right, then I won't ask you any more of them. That's fine. All right. Support the installation of emergency generator. I mean, I'll jump into the puddle on that. I have supported that for 8 years. I'll continue to support that. My only qualification to that is if the scope of it changes or what it serves, whether this continues to be fire department or public works might modify that, but I will continue to support at least looking at that. We don't need to ask Mike anymore, but the rest of the three of you, comments on that?
Yes.
So you're willing to look at that? Jim, Bob?
I think it depends on the scope of an emergency generator. You need to open the doors and
Okay.
power the key fob. Go buy a freaking generator tomorrow and get it done. Let's not belabor that.
Okay. Bob?
Definitely yes.
Okay.
And again, this goes down to a cost issue. I mean,
All right.
if really the concern was to open the doors, we can solve those problems short of a $60,000
All right,
generator.
so yours is cost, we got it. All right, third one, will you support the construction of a new public works building? And again, I would qualify that as an option to possibly move it in there. At least would you be willing to have a consultant or somebody, we give them programmatic statement, come up with some concept or plans where to locate it, how big to make it, that type of thing. Are you willing to take a look at that? And I know, Mike, yours is all about money, so we got that. What about the other three of you?
I'll go with a yes. I just kind of was looking at this and going off of measurements of trucks and whatnot, and I'd say within a give or take about 7,000 square feet.
All right, just as a point of reference, I think, and maybe Mike, you get a recollection, I think that thing on the Angus Young plan, I want to say that that was 11,000 square feet or something. That was a big building, wasn't that?
Well, it was,
80
but
or
we
90
gave them
feet.
specific direction to include storage.
I understand that, so.
Well, but that's more than a DPW building for a couple of trucks.
Agreed. Okay, Jim, Bob,
Yeah,
thoughts on
I
that?
would support at least looking at the
Okay.
cost of it.
So you're a yes, Bob?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a yes on that. Again, we had the question about the size thing. I mean, I'm not saying that I think we need it, but I mean, I'd be willing to consider or look at probably up to 10,000 square feet, but I'm not saying for me that that's what we need. That has to be need driven. Okay, fourth question. in lieu or instead of constructing an addition to the fire station, bay expansion, sleeping rooms, etc., and constructing a new public works building, are you willing to consider the feasibility of constructing a new fire station and moving public works department into the existing fire station after the fire department moves into the new fire station? And again, this is, are you willing to consider that or look at that as an option? I'll go yes, looking at that an option. Again, everybody's got to understand, these aren't commitments, it's the important words, are you willing to take a look at it? Mike, yours is all about money, I get it.
Well, it's the cost of the overall project. I mean, so far we've gone down and all four people have said, yeah, I'll take a look at this. Oh, yeah, I'll take a look at this. Well, sure, we're all looking at anything, but
Okay,
we don't have the money to do everything unless we make some dramatic reassessments of how we're gonna build things. We tried to do that once with the DPW building, and that didn't work. I mean, we tried to take the DPW building from $1.2 million to about $350,000 or $400,000, and that got stonewalled. So everybody wants to do everything. That's great.
So I guess the question we could ask is, you're not willing to borrow any either?
I think the temperature of this board has been taken several times, and every person has said that they have not been in the position to borrow.
well, I have certainly said that would clearly not be my first choice, but at this point in time, I mean, frankly, in part of this exercise, we need to narrow it down. I'm trying to a little bit expand minds at this point in time to look at different options. That's part of the discussion tonight. I mean, we can narrow it down. And I mean, if you want to simply say it may be out of reach to do all of these kind of things or whatnot, I'm just trying to get a sense of what is simply off limits for consideration for people. I mean, we gotta find a way. We have, tonight is not about assessing blame, but for goodness sakes, this elected officials in the town of Waukesha here have been stumbling over their feet, promising things to people, and promises made and promises not delivered. And I'm not trying to, I mean, I've been part of that. I'm not trying to beat up on anybody, but to sit here, frankly, it is embarrassing to sit here and we had a 2018 to 2022 capital plan, capital budget, if we would have done that. And I'm going to tell you, maybe, in retrospect, maybe it'll be a blessing it didn't. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about, just let me finish, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about adding sleeping quarters onto the fire station. It would have been done, built, and occupied, let me just finish.
That's not true.
It is too, in 2018, because it was put into the capital budget, which was approved in November of 2017, till four board members turned to go the other way. And again, that may turn out to be a blessing, but we have stumbled over ourselves for years on this, and it is frustrating to many, many people, fire department, public works, many town residents, me personally, and I mean, I'm exposing that, I'm showing it. It is frustrating, so we're trying to find a way, not everybody's gonna agree on everything, but to try to find a way to build a consensus, to work together. I think this has been a good meeting. We've been sitting here banging around on this for 2 hours, and there's more to come, but we gotta find a way forward, or otherwise the next year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years are gonna be no different than the last 10 years have been. It's that simple. So there, I had a vent, sorry.
The reality is that it was a capital plan that wasn't funded.
No, it was a capital
Now let me
budget that was
finish.
approved.
Now let me finish.
Budget.
You had your time, now
Go ahead.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
It was a capital plan that wasn't funded. And I am not embarrassed, you speak for yourself, I ask. I am not embarrassed that I have protected the taxpayers' money all along the way. I have presented options and I have presented plans that were significantly and dramatically cheaper and more within the town's taxing ability that have been rejected. So I'm not embarrassed about that at all. And from the terms of borrowing, yeah, let's go out and borrow. We can borrow almost an infinite amount of money. And then we'll have some really cool, brand-new buildings at almost any cost that we desire. But staying within the means of what we can afford will force us to make the decisions about what we can do. We can do things that accomplish what we need to get done. If the goal is to have a bunch of shiny new buildings, we can't do that without borrowing.
Well, that's
For
not the
sure.
goal, and
I am
I'm
not
saying
done.
borrowing
I am not
infinite
done.
money,
Let
that's
him
okay.
finish, let him
I am
finish.
not done.
Let him finish.
But what we need to do is to live within our means, and no board should be embarrassed by living within their means. What people should be embarrassed about is spending wildly like most government entities do. And now I am done, thank you.
Okay, did you want to respond? Go
But
ahead.
there's also an in-between. I'm not saying spend infinitely, but I'm also not gonna put tents out in the park and let the fire department stay in the tents. I could look at it that way also.
I guess I have a response, Mike, and I'm not here to try to embarrass anybody, but I'm gonna set the record straight, okay? And Kathy can verify this, I asked her to even put it forward, I'll pass it down the table. The town board, not only capital plan, approved a 2018 capital budget for $1,654,500, which included the living quarters addition to the fire station and the emergency generator. Confirmed that it was a budget, correct?
Correct.
It was a budget, you voted for it, Mike, I did, Jim voted for it, John Merritt voted for it, and Larry Wolf for it. 5-0, we voted for it. So don't misrepresent the record. It was a budget, and I'm telling you, and I'm not here to embarrass anybody, but we're gonna set the record straight. And maybe, in retrospect or in hindsight, we're at where we're at today, January of 2020. Maybe there's a better way that didn't get done. But if 4 members of the board hadn't turned and gone the other direction, which was ultimately your prerogative to do when you would not vote to hire the architect, but for that, that fire station addition would be here now. That's fact. Okay, who's next?
Let's move on to the next question.
Okay, wrapping it up then. Again, I indicated, you can all jump in, I'm willing to look at the possibility, and I'm not looking to see if we can just throw away money on shiny new buildings. I'm willing to look at the feasibility, or consider the feasibility of constructing a new fire station, moving public works into the existing building. I guess I'd like the rest of you to simply say yes, no, or I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, I'm looking at, I'm not saying we're gonna do all this, like you said, that's not,
Agreed.
right, so that's, we gotta look at all of these, and if the options are better, one or the other,
Yeah.
we'll worry about that in the future, but not tonight.
To consider the possibility.
Right.
Jim, yes, no, or I don't know?
Sure, bring on all the options.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your undivided support. All right, will you support the construction of a new salt shed? I'll jump into this. I will say yes, and I hear many voices to say that it's not the highest priority. I'm listening to that. I'm inclined at the moment to agree with that, and if we need to prioritize things, including money, I mean, if we're going to do that, again, it gets to the question of where. I think I would actually support being able to store a season's worth of salt, and I mean, we got caught with our pants down last year because we ran out of salt. We had to buy 300 tons, 350, 400, 400 tons. We had to haul it out of Chicago. We paid, what, north of 130 bucks a ton? Is that right? And otherwise, I mean, we were able to buy it more like 70 bucks a ton. I mean, town taxpayers took it in the shorts on that because we had to buy 400 extra tons of salt at a premium of about 60 to 70 bucks a ton. I mean, we laid 30,000 bucks on the table because we didn't have salt, couldn't store it.
But a salt shed would not have changed that.
Oh, yes, it would have, if we, let me finish,
Mr.
let me
Chairman,
finish.
Mr.
Okay,
Chairman,
you go ahead.
You were done, now I'll finish.
I'm not done, but go
A
ahead.
salt shed would have changed that because the issue was that we ran out of salt that we had purchased. I believe we purchased 1,700 ton ballpark, that's usually what we go into a season with. And even if we would have had a 2,000 ton capacity salt shed on premise here, we would have had 1,700 tons in it, excuse me, and we would have got to the end of the year and it would have still been empty, whether it was empty at the town salt, or excuse me, at the county salt shed, or whether it would have been empty here. Empty would have been empty.
Okay, I'll respond. I thought it was more like 1,400 tons. How much was our original salt purchase last year? 1,400 tons, so it was 1,400 tons.
Whether it was 1,400
No, let
or
me finish, let me
1,700, it
finish.
doesn't matter. We
Yes,
used
it does.
all.
Let me finish, okay? If I've got a dozen eggs in the refrigerator, okay? And
I don't
need
care
to
how
make-
many eggs you
No,
got in the
let me talk.
refrigerator.
If I've got a dozen eggs in the refrigerator and I want to make an omelet for a bunch of people and I need 10 eggs, I've got enough eggs. If I've only got 8 of them in there, I'm too short. So my bottom line is, I don't think it's the highest priority. If I were doing it, you look at economy of scale, I wouldn't put a salt shed up for 500 tons or what or not. I put one up for a season's worth. It's not my highest priority. I would probably go 1,600 to 2,000 tons and it would cover a season's worth of salt. Anybody else jump in on that? I'm yes, it's not my highest priority, but I'm yes. Anybody else? Mike, you're no, I get it.
I would support a salt shed, but not as a top priority, and I certainly wouldn't fill it with 2,000 tons.
What's your size maximum that you'd
I think
consider?
a minimum of 500. They have trucks that deliver salt every day, all year long.
Is that your minimum or your maximum?
That's my minimum.
What's your maximum?
I guess it depends on price. If you can build a 1,000-ton shed for the same price,
All right.
wouldn't that make more sense?
It
guess
sure
how
would
many eggs
to, it
would it
sure
hold?
would to me, yeah. Okay, so maybe we need a consultant or a little bit of research on that. I can tell you that a 1,000-ton salt shed is not gonna cost double of 500, but we need a little information. Okay. David, Bob, you wanna weigh in on this one, and then we're almost done?
I agree with everybody. I would look at it, it's not my priority.
Okay.
But I'm open to options and all of this stuff. I guess.
So you're a yes, but not the highest priority. Fair enough, David?
I think it'd be huge if they could keep the trucks indoors loaded. That would help out immensely. And a shed would be nice because if we have 200 ton left, we can say, wow, we could mix 200 ton of sand with it, now we have 400 ton of material.
Okay.
So,
All right, we pretty much exhausted that. Additional public comments. We're gonna wrap this up pretty soon. It's time for a comfort stop or something momentarily, we're about 2.5 hours. Anybody else who would like to speak before we wrap this item up? If not, I think all the members of the board want to deeply thank all of you. You came with some good thoughts, you gave of your time. Hopefully there's a lot of other people watching on YouTube. Fair to say this discussion is gonna go on, and it's a good thing, so thank you all. Pleasure of the board, do we wanna simply wrap up these? I think next 2 items should be fairly quick before we take a quick break. Is that acceptable to everybody? If it is 8B is discussion, possible action on rate increase for election workers. Kathy, you want to address that to everybody?
Well,
I'm surprised, did you want to talk? Hold on, just a minute.
well,
Did you want to say something else?
yeah, Sandy Hamm, it seems we're skipping over the second part of 8A.
Oh, you're talking about the incorporation thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I didn't mean to do that intentionally. We disseminate some information, but by all means, if there are questions about the incorporation effort, bring them forward.
Okay.
I didn't mean that.
I only had one comment, was certainly I've shown my support for the incorporation all along and continue to, and I wanted to let anyone in the room know that I will be posting, well, so what's coming up is the joint review board, as you mentioned, there's 5 people on that, you and Mr. Doerr, and then we have 3 people, 1 whose vote we don't expect, and 2 that are options, and we need to get one of those people to vote in favor with us. And I have put together a PDF with everybody's phone number and email address that's on the school board as well as on the finance and facilities committee and the county person. And I'll be posting it on Facebook, and anyone that doesn't have Facebook can email me at watchingwaukesha@gmail.com, and I will send you the PDF. We need everybody, or I would like to see as many people as possible, contact these decision makers and encourage them to vote in favor of our TID. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't mean to cut that short. Anybody else with questions or comments regarding our incorporation effort? Anybody? More? Board? Anything further?